And welcome to another episode of the Two Fans Podcast. I'm your co-host, Joshua Ament.
And I'm your other co-host, Ari Jesselson.
And today, honestly, I don't really know how to introduce this one. Ari, can you take this?
I could try my best, but if there's one thing I hate more than Yankees fans and life itself, it's Mahomes stance. Probably because they always brag about how they got a steal and how so many teams failed in 2017 draft. In today's episode, we're going to go back to see how draft analysts aren't always correct and how things in the past don't always translate to today's times. Obviously, as I said before, Patrick Mahomes.
Yes. As a Bears fan, I will hear every single day not an exaggeration, but there are those trolls who will, anytime I even mention the Bears and the woes on their offense that extend beyond their quarterback, the go-to response is, oh yeah, you could have had Patrick Mahomes, which, yes, technically we could have, the same way that your Cleveland Browns could have had Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, and how anyone could have had Tom Brady.
Exactly. Yeah, I think the point that we're gonna try to make here is that draft scouts are not always right, and by not always, I mean they are bound to mess something up in every draft.
And I'm not calling them liars for how they're evaluating players, but some of them, yeah, I'll call them liars because, hey, controversy, gets the ratings. But a lot of the times, they don't always make the right plays, especially when we look at the 2017 quarterback class. Do you want to start it off, or?
I was thinking we could look at some other draft sleepers, draft busts that have happened. Then look at that 2017 draft, get that anger sort of building, and then let me let some of it out.
Okay, go ahead then.
All right, so let's start. I guess let's start with some of the biggest instances where scouts, be it in the NFL and the NBA, have hyped up these young prospects drafted early, and then not because of injuries, because I feel like injuries are a big cop out for a lot of guys. I know, like Greg Oden in particular is like seen as one of the biggest busts, but like he couldn't really help it. He just couldn't stay on the court.
Same with Sean Livingston.
Yeah, absolutely. But there were just some guys who, they could stay on the field, stay on the court, but they just didn't produce. And I feel like the biggest guy, when you look at the NFL, probably his name comes up as biggest draft bust of all time, is Jamarcus Russell. Was seen by pretty much everyone as the consensus number one pick in the 2007 draft by the Raiders. And then just a lot of things have happened with him. He held out in preseason to earn a big deal. Of course, he didn't really produce in his rookie year or much beyond that. And there were a lot of factors around that. Some of it was Russell's fault, others not so much. Again, with Jamarcus Russell, there of course with the initial holdout that you had, and he generally was seen as like a low character, a lazy kind of guy, what didn't really help. And I feel like what a lot of people will overlook in hindsight was I believe in between his rookie and second years, two of his closest uncles passed away, and that really got to him, demotivated him a little bit more. And so there also Raiders coach at the time, Lane Kiffin, was reported to not even want to draft Russell and instead draft Calvin Johnson. Of course, hindsight is 2020. And he kind of admitted later, Kiffin, that he didn't really try to coach Russell or put in much of a support system. So there are a lot of different factors, and really, I think, of course, we'll get to some more instances, but I guess that's kind of the big point is that there are a lot of different ways that you can take a highly touted prospect and make him a bust.
Yeah, and just also adding on to the thing about what made Jamarcus Russell bust. He also there was a lot of stuff that happened, a lot of tragedy that happened in his life, but he also didn't really work hard or really care. He obviously had the physical physique to become a greatness, to become one of the greatest quarterbacks, but he really never put the work. Obviously, have you heard about the story of Jamarcus Russell in the tapes? Do you know what
I
I'm talking
believe
about?
you mentioned this once. I think this
So,
was like this was. I'm sorry. I'm gonna try to recall it. Do you mind?
not not at all. Go ahead.
All right. I think, and I may be getting this completely wrong. Go ahead and call me if I am. But this was just to make sure he was watching the game tape. They sent the Raiders coaching staff sent Russell a tape that like wasn't game film. They asked, "Oh, did you watch it?" And he tried to BS his way through it.
Yeah, so what happened was no one, the coaches didn't think Jamarcus Russell was studying tapes, so they gave him blanket sets. When asked the next day if he watched it, he said, "Yeah, I watched the blitz packages, and the tapes were blank. There was nothing on them." So he really never put in the work. And also looking at that hindsight 2020 thing, that class was stacked. Calvin Johnson, Joe Thomas, Adrian Peterson, Patrick Willis, Marshawn Lynch, Darrell Revis, Joe Stanley, Greg Olson, Paul Pulaski, and Eric Weddle. And those are only the guys who could be in the Hall of Fame. There are a lot of great players, but he was a once in a generational type of player at the end of the day. So taking him seemed like a good play. So not everything always works out. Just if I may, I want to switch over a little bit to basketball and look at one of the best players, definitely a game changer. The man who changed the game of basketball, Stephen Curry. So, as we know, Curry wasn't really sought after. He was picked pretty middle in the draft. And going to a forum by InsideHoops.com, the main poster posted something that said, "quote I just keep getting the sneaky feeling he's going to be equivalent of Arenas on crack. Anybody with me?" Guess what the response were? The majority of the response.
I'm gonna guess dislikes slash boy you so dumb LOL.
Yeah, basically. And I just want to read to you some of the things. His best case, he would be Mike Bibby. Worst case, Eddie House. Most likely will be a player like Donna Barris. Another person said, "I like Curry, but I take Tyreek Evans before him in the draft." Uh, Another one says Ty Lawson is the best. Steph Curry will be a great sixth man. Another one says Steph Curry will be a bust if he's taken in the top 5. He will be unable to create his own shot against bigger, stronger, faster players, and his jumper won't fall under his 10 shots a game. Arenas comparison is stupid. Oh, wait, that's a good one. Sorry. He also said, a poor man's Bobby Gibson at that. So there is not a lot of greatness. There's not a lot of greatness when people look at that time, going back 2008, 2009 at Steph Curry. Just one of the longer ones. Quote, the lack of ball handling skills surprised me about Curry. If your dad played in the NBA for 10 years, you would think that helping his son develop a nasty handle would be priority number 1. If he puts at the point, he's going to be a turnover machine. Not to mention that he doesn't look quick or strong enough to even be an adequate defender. He will probably be best off the bench as designated scorer.
Yeah, and I think to an extent, some of these criticisms had some merit early in their career. Of course, Curry did take a while until he broke out in 2014, 2015, and you really saw what the system that Steve Kerr and Jerry West sort of put around that Warriors team, using Curry's strengths. I mean, to their best of their potential. Of course, with him and Klay Thompson, that 3-point pretty much revolutionized the game with the way they were playing. And that just goes to show you just how well a guy criticized as much as Curry can be in the right system. I'll talk about another one of those guys from the 2013 draft. And no, not Giannis Antetokounmpo. He was actually seen as like a French top 10 pick there. And I know I'll talk about another project player a little bit later. But as far as the 2013 NBA draft goes, uh, of course, Giannis would in redrafts be seen as the consensus number one. The consensus number two was the 27th overall pick in Rudy Gobert. Of course, year in and year out, a shoo-in candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. Nowadays, a key centerpiece to that Utah Jazz team. And I think, of course, a lot of criticism on him going into the draft was, would he be able to create points for himself? Would he have to be the lead scorer? Of course, with the Jazz, he's never had to be that, be it with Gordon Hayward or with Donovan Mitchell. He's always just been that big man next to the great scoring option, and that has worked wonders for him and for the Jazz.
Yeah, definitely. He also, like you said, he fit into his role. He never had to be that one scorer. He was able to play whatever fit for him, and he's just rolling with that. Obviously, he looks like a defensive player of the year every single year.
Yeah, now as far as of course we talk about 2013, we talk about Giannis, who's seen a very big hit or miss prospect, project player, boomer bust, all those cliches that have you. I think and of course Giannis is the ultimate success story of that. MVP centerpiece of the Bucks now. I think you don't have to go too far back or too far geographically to find one of the worst examples of that in 2003 in Detroit with Darko Milicic. Of course, he was seen right up there with LeBron, with Dwayne Wade, with Melo, Chris Bosh too. And he was picked ahead of all except LeBron, and of course, seen as a very raw prospect who some teams like the Pistons, of course, hope that he could translate that talent to the NBA. Unfortunately, he never really could.
Yeah, and it's crazy to see how a guy like him could be picked after Carmelo Anthony, who's still in the league, and D Wade, two of the greatest players of our generation. But when we look back at hindsight, just getting some out of scout reports, I mean, you can see he's, quote, a creative scorer who understands how to set up his defender off the dribble. Excellent finisher when receiving the ball on the break or out of the perimeter, as he can cut to the lane and even dunk in traffic. On defense, he is an excellent help defender who shows promise of being an adequate shot blocker. So there is a lot of praise to the guy. And looking back at it, if you look at his old tapes, yeah, you could see that. You could see why he was paid against Bosh or Melo or Wade or any of those guys like that. But when we look at what's actually on the court, it really didn't see that we got any of that.
Yeah, and I feel like if we want to go back at least a couple weeks from what we were talking about, I remember we had that one of our first episodes on rookies and first round picks. One of the points I really wanted to make and sort of drive home is that a pick is only potential. And I feel like now when we're talking about using those picks to take players, that's really, again, another sort of swap of potential value of the pick turning into the value of the player's potential. And again, with guys like Milicic, with Antetokounmpo, the potential is very high, and it's up to teams to be able to fully realize it. And I feel like it's also up for scouts to sort of give the full picture. Say, yes, this is the ceiling, but the floor is also very low.
It's a gamble at the end of the day. That's what it is. You're taking the risk of how well will this player be.
Yeah, of course. And I think, of course, we'll talk about bust. And I feel like on the other end, we have to bring up some of the big sleepers in recent history. I guess we'll stay with basketball right now. And I think if you, at least one of the biggest second round picks that comes to mind for me is Nikola Jokic. Was picked 41st overall, and pretty much any sort of pre-draft analysis you see of him criticizes his lack of athleticism so much. I feel like now, of course, with the Nuggets, again, it's all in the system where they find a way. They're finding a way to use him well. Of course, as your sort of do it all big man that you see with kind of guys like him, like Anthony Davis, what have you, and of course he's not alone. He has guys like Jamal Murray, like Michael Porter Jr., who can take some of that athleticism, take on that role. And of course, it's in the team knowing how to use him wisely, and they do with Jokic.
Yeah, and he's looking like an MVP this year. So we always see that they're not always accurate. They're not always what they could be. When a player works hard, a lot of the times it contributes to success, but that's not always the case. And some dudes, even though they're valued higher, they might not be good, and dudes valued lower might not always be good. Just someone who was kind of in the middle of the pack for the NBA season, not much on his draft analyst, but kind of who he is. Muggsy Bogues, shortest dude in the NBA at 5'3", picked 12th overall in the 1987 draft, the same draft class with David Robinson, Scottie Pippen, and Reggie Miller. I think I want to bring him up because despite only being 5'3", which is incredible and nowadays in basketball, it really seems like you got to be 6'2", 6'3", or over. Like 6'1" seems like such a short time. You know what I mean? But
I'm sorry. I just want to cut in and also give one more example of one of those sleepers with the 60th overall pick in 2013, if I'm not mistaken, Isaiah Thomas.
Yes,
was also 5'9".
Yeah, exactly. Isaiah Thomas is one of my favorite players, but going just a little bit to Muggsy Bogues, a dude is 5'3". Some of these guys have 2 feet over him. Despite all that, he retired after the 2000-2001 NBA season. That's over 13 years as an NBA pro. You know, because he worked hard. He played in over 800 total games in that span. That's incredible for a dude that height. He put the hard work in. And there are dudes in that list who were picked ahead of him who were projected to be better, projected with height and athleticism, and they just never panned out. Meanwhile, this guy, 5'3", same for with Isaiah Thomas, 5'9", short guys, and they worked out. Isaiah was also one of my favorite players to watch. I loved him on the Celtics, followed him on the Cavaliers, which the Clippers actually kept him, but it's not always about what you're projected to be. It's not always about the height. It's about the work you put in. And even that, some guys who put in the work never get the chance. So we never always see an exact 1-for-1 of an analyst compared to a player.
Yeah, of course. And as far as I want to take a little bit back as far as like what a system for a team can do, both for at least turning a prospect into a superstar, or turning a superstar prospect into a bust. I'll say one of the biggest examples, and I'm sorry for bringing this up to a Browns fan, but in 2012 with Trent Richardson.
Please go on. Yeah, I'd love to hear about this.
I mean, yeah, he was, of course, heading into the draft scene, like I don't know what trying to think of like a good phrase, whatever. Just by far the best running back in the draft class, 3rd overall pick behind Luck and RG3, who both had spectacular college years. And he was, I mean, again, like set up to be the staple running back, pretty much greatest running back since Adrian Peterson. Unfortunately, what people didn't really realize with him in Alabama, of course, with Alabama, with such a talented team, you have the offensive line creating holes for him that really he didn't have to rely on his vision much. And when you saw him in the NFL with the Browns and their offensive line is not Alabama, and you're not playing SEC defenses, you're playing NFL defenses. So Richardson had to rely more on his vision, and unfortunately, he couldn't really do that, and was traded to the Colts, I believe, like
The following year,
yeah.
2013. Yeah, because also his vision was never great. He couldn't find the hole. If you just Google the photos of him, most of them are just him running to the opposite side despite open lanes happening. Obviously, going from Alabama to the Browns is like going from the Patriots to the Browns, or the Broncos to the Browns, or Clemson to the Browns, or LSU further to the Browns, or the Yankees to the Browns. I could just keep going on, but you get the point. The Browns really sucked. We weren't that good of a team, especially back then. So it really shows a guy how he had to focus. He had to focus on his weaknesses, and because of that, he never really panned out.
Yeah, and I also want to take a moment again, because it works in just every single way you slice it in terms of the system that you have to be aware of. Number one, I'll bring up the 5th-round pick from Maryland a couple of years ago, who you might know, Stephon Diggs, who numbers didn't really shine much in college. Again, it's Maryland. It's not known for its football teams, not known for its quarterback play. And so Diggs really didn't get a lot of numbers, of course. Then you put him with the Vikings. You pair him up with Adam Thielen. You give a good enough offensive line, and of course you had with Sam Bradford or was it Sam Bradford? I forget who started that year.
I believe it was
For
Bradford.
oh no, it was Case Keenum. That's who it was. With Keenum, with Kirk Cousins. You see now with Josh Allen on the Bills. Like he's put in a position where he can succeed and be one of the best receivers in the league.
Definitely, especially with Josh Allen, they got a great friendship on and off the field, so that obviously helps. And it's not like just going back to my Browns, but it's not like it's easy to rebuild or build up a team. We've seen a lot of these guys coming in from it was all about the draft and free agency. Denzel Ward, Myles Garrett, Baker Mayfield, Nick Chubb, all brought in from the draft. But then we got guys in free agency like Wyatt Teller, Sheldon Richardson. We got the trade for Odell Beckham Jr. So it's really hard to fit in all these pieces and make sure they actually stick. It's hard to get, because some teams you're looking for, oh, I need this guy to fit in. But would he fit in? Is he going to pan out?
Yeah, and there's like a lot of course, there are two schools of thought whenever it comes to draft, which is draft the best player available, or draft based on need. And it's always hard to sort of pit the two against each other, because on the one hand, the best player available might not be the best player available in your system. Again, if you crap, I don't have a good example.
If the Bucks had the number 1 pick, they wouldn't go for Trevor Lawrence, if that's what I think you want to say.
Yeah. I mean, said it better than I ever could. Of course, like I know a lot of people will say like, oh, if the Timberwolves they took Johnny Flynn and Ricky Rubio before Stephen Curry, but if they would have taken Stephen Curry, he wouldn't have been in that Warrior system and wouldn't have evolved into the player that he's become.
Exactly.
And
There's a lot but there's a lot that goes into a player's success.
Yes, and here's where we circle it all back to 2017. Woo boy! Because if the Bears take Patrick Mahomes,
Or Desean Watson.
Seems good. It does. You put a great quarterback in a great system from 2018. But what happened in 2019? The offensive line completely fell apart. The coaching staff did not know how to use the run game. The defense was still pretty good, but has been regressing since 2018. Does this sound familiar to you? Because it sounds to me like this is exactly what we saw from the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. And that didn't work out well for Mahomes either, did it?
No, it did not. No, it did not. Preach on.
There are, and this is why I will say every single time with the Bears and the quarterback, the issues go so far beyond the quarterback, and people so fail to realize that so much. Even, of course, this isn't just with the Bears. This is with the Jets. I know people have them taking Zach Wilson or Justin Fields at number 2 overall, even though the best part of their offense is probably Sam Darnold. It doesn't matter if you put Trevor Lawrence, Tom Brady, Mahomes on that Jets team.
No
They're
QB
not
would
going to
do good in that
succeed.
system. Yeah, no QB would have done good in that system. So, also going back on it, Mahomes wasn't valued as a good quarterback. No one projected him to be this good. And if you don't mind, I'd like to read some draft analysts what they said about him.
By all means, go ahead.
Okay, I'll start with Mahomes because Stephen Ruiz of USA Today gave the Chiefs a C- grade on the draft. And he said, quote, calling Mahomes a project is a major understatement. He's nowhere near ready to play in the NFL. And honestly, he may never be. Between his inconsistent accuracy due to poor mechanics, his tendency to bail from clean pockets, and his lack of field vision, he's going to leave as many big plays on the field as he creates. This was a risky pick.
And here's the thing. They're not wrong. It was a risky pick, and there is a reason that Mahomes didn't start his rookie year. He had a year to redshirt under Alex Smith and Andy Reid and be put into the best offensive system in the league. And of course, like, I'm not going to deny the amazing talent that Mahomes has, because he has that. But to say that his success has nothing to do with the system that he's a part of is giving him way too much credit.
Yes, and I'm going to read some more stuff. But his first game, the last week of the 2017 season, after they clinched the playoff spots, they put Mahomes in for that last game. 62.9% completion rating, 284 yards, no TDs, 1 interception. Pretty bad. And do you want to say anything about those stats, or should I just keep going on with his analysts?
Yeah, no, keep going.
Yeah, so Chad Ryder of NFL.com, quote, there is a risk factor here given his penchant for throwing the ball anywhere and from any arm angle, which will turn into interceptions in the NFL. Dan Catter said, quote, my grade on what Kansas City did in this draft is due to my opinions that they gave up way too much to trade up for quarterback Patrick Mahomes in the first round. Again, if he works out, I look dumb and it doesn't matter. But to give up pick number 27 and 91 this year and a first round pick in 2018 is a lot.
I also want to say from that, just because, again, we kind of forget and like take for granted that the Chiefs trade up for Mahomes and take him 10th overall, because if you look at any mock draft or draft board from 2017, there is a pretty clear quarterback consensus that Trubisky is number 1, and he's going to be either picked by the Browns if they trade up for him, or another team that trades up for him in the top 5. Of course, that's what happened. But he generally won't fall much outside the top 10. Then quarterback number 2, Desean Watson, where you can really put him anywhere from number 11 through 30-ish, and you wouldn't have been outlandish. However, you would have been outlandish if you had Mahomes being taken above Watson. Mahomes was generally seen, I think, as high as 13, but mostly towards the end of the first round. Anyone who said that they saw Mahomes as so sought after to be traded up and taken with the 10th overall pick, just doesn't really know their hindsight.
Listen, there were more praise on Nathan Peterman than there was on Patrick Mahomes. I'm just going to go to two of my favorite quotes that I found. The JetsPress.com's Michael Palla said, quote, when it comes to the 2017 NFL draft class, quarterback Nathan Peterman can be a hidden gem in the rough. Just
And
take
who
that in
knows?
for a minute. Wait, I got one more quote just to take this one in, okay? NBC Sports, Lance Zierlein said, quote, Peterman's experience in a pro-style passing attack gives him a head start heading into the league. His physical attributes are just average, but his accuracy, composure, and anticipation are what sets him apart from some of the more physically gifted quarterbacks in this year's draft.
Now I have a question for you, Ari.
Yes.
Do you think, and this might sound a little bit crazy to some of you, but do you think that if the Chiefs never traded up, never wanted Mahomes, and instead took Peterman, he would be a Pro Bowl caliber quarterback?
That is hard to say, but I will say the Chiefs roster was way better than that Bills roster when Peterman got it started. Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce alone makes it 100 times better than what Nathan Peterman had on the Bills. That's all I got to say. The Chiefs were in a much better position, both on offense and defense.
Yeah, some very valid points there. Of course, even if you remember Josh Allen's rookie year, where of course the most he could do was just run around for as long as possible before he inevitably got injured because that offense had to be rebuilt. And of course, the Bills have done a great job rebuilding that offense and putting Josh Allen in the best position to succeed. And I know that, again, juxtaposing it with my Bears, because those two teams were just so very, very similar, I believe, like a year apart, where you have them come out of nowhere into the playoffs, led with a strong defense and a young, mobile quarterback. Of course, the difference there, after that first year, the Bills did everything they could to build around Josh Allen, trade for Stephon Diggs, reinforce that offensive line, and the Bears and Ryan Pace did not do that. You had the whole Matt Nagy next step, which did not work, to say the least.
Oh, yeah, and I know we definitely, especially you, definitely have a lot of that to say that we probably make a full episode on. But going back to the draft, if I might, for more analysts, Rob Rang of CBS Sports said, quote, Trubisky's production, as well as his NFL caliber combination of size, arm strength, and athleticism, is certainly intriguing. But the Tar Heels QB is largely a projection at this point. Though he played in 19 games the past 2 seasons as an often used backup, the only 10 starts of his college career have come this season, and he is supported by legitimate NFL talent at running back and wide receiver. Bucky Brooks of NFL.com. Trubisky started the game like a house on fire, the way to throwing 3 first-half touchdowns. In doing so, he shows scouts that he possesses every tool in the toolbox, exhibiting outstanding ball placement and touch on short, intermediate, and deep passes. And back to Lance Zierlein of NFL Network. Trubisky is a high-end quarterback prospect who possesses NFL size, a big arm, and the ability to throw with accuracy from the pocket or on the move. He hasn't put all the pieces together yet, but the puzzle is all right in front. Trubisky projects as a good starting quarterback with a high floor and potential to be great. NFL comparison: Matthew Stafford. Now take that last one, and who does that sound you of? A guy with a big arm and the ability to throw with accuracy from the pocket or on the move.
Sounds to me like Josh Allen. And I will. Yep. I will say if you want to quote me on anything from today's episode, it is with the Bears with Mitchell Trubisky, is that they had Josh Allen and they turned him into Josh Rosen, just a player who was never in the right situation at the right time and gets too much way too much flack for it.
And we're seeing that right now with Tua. I mean, he's a rookie coming off of a major injury, and people want him out already.
Yes, I mean sometimes, of course, just a year before, everyone was talking about how the Dolphins need to take Tua. Right now, like even in spite of the injury and all that, but I think the main takeaway we get here is whether it's a late round pick who emerges or a top pick who doesn't pan out for whatever reason, just as much as we want to blame the player, just as much as we want to blame the team, is that we have to look at some of these draft scouts and and ask, why was this player rated so high or so low?
Exactly. And to go back to a draft, we got to see their analysts back then. We can't make the argument, 31 other teams could add Tom Brady in the first round. There was a reason why he wasn't projected to be a first rounder or second rounder.
Yep, and there's a reason why guys like Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson were not the first quarterback off the board. In Jackson's case, he was the fifth. Again, you can make the case the Bears could have had Patrick Mahomes, the Browns could have had Lamar Jackson, but there were a lot of other teams that also could have had them.
Exactly. I was going to make the argument. There's a reason why these guys weren't projected to be this high. Great for them for turning around their careers and proving the haters wrong and proving everyone who doubted them wrong. But there was a reason that they were in that spot.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's more warranted than others. Sometimes, of course, players will just shoot up the draft boards for seemingly no reason. Sometimes they'll fall down for seemingly no reason. Sometimes scouts will take too much stock into one story, not enough into another. Whatever it is, that there is a lot of margin for error in drafts, and we act as if that the number one player or the number one pick is needs to be better than the number two pick, needs to be better than the number three pick. And ideally, yes, hopefully someday scouting will get to a point where we can like see everyone's careers like unfold like with such pinpoint accuracy, but we are far from a place like that right now. And of course, like generational talents do happen, and it doesn't take a lot to look at some players and say, oh yeah, they're going places or they'll never make it. But as many times as you can make accurate predictions on that, there are a whole lot of exceptions.
Definitely. At the end of the day, these guys are all human. They make mistakes. Yeah, and just going back to Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs viewed him accidentally. In the Times UK, Patty Van Beer, in an article by her, they said, quote, the story of Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs began in 2015, almost entirely by accident. Brett Veach, in his role as Chiefs co-director of player personnel, was studying some game film to scout one of the Texas offensive linemen's tackles, yet he was distracted by the sophomore quarterback. Well, there's a reason that so many of these draft analysts didn't really care about these guys. And there's a reason. At the end of the day, they're human. And at the end of the day, they're in a position where, yeah, they might not pan out to be so high. So let's project them to be later picks. And guys who don't pan out, because of the talent they have around them and the talent that they have, they can be projected to be higher guys. But that doesn't mean that they're going to be that high. That doesn't mean the number one pick is always going to be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, again, is that idea of draft pick really only being potential and then turning it into the potential of a prospect. Of course, there are ceilings, there are floors, and their heights will vary based on every player. And it's, again, hard to know where each player is going to end up, but there is a lot of room for error compared to what any draft scout will say. And I think that is the note that we can end it on. If you thank you guys so much for listening to us and bearing with us. If you have any questions, comments, or something you want us to talk about, you can always email us at number2fanspodcast@gmail.com. We do this every single day, Monday through Thursday. Just upload it to Anchor, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. So until next time, we will talk to you then.